ragu is completely ready and we let it cool down a little bit. It tastes delicious. Again, you can just eat that over pasta if you want. It's awesome. I highly recommend shredding some Parmesan cheese over the top. But if you want to go the next step and fully make lasagna, I'm going to show you how to assemble lasagna. This is a combination of my mom's recipe and my mother-in-law's recipe, and so I hope you guys enjoy it. Here we go. All right, first thing is I have this big bowl of spinach, and we're gonna wilt it. So this is water that is just not quite boiling. All I'm gonna do is pour it over. This looks like an insane amount of spinach, but it's actually not all that much. So this is gonna go in like so. Be careful not to spill boiling water on myself. And once I got the water in there, I want to seal it in a little bit to create steam. So I'm going to take some plastic wrap and go over the top with plastic wrap just like that. Seal that up. Okay, just like that. Give a little bit of a stir around, and then it's going to steam that up. If I want to, I can do this. I'm going to put it in the microwave for about a minute. Let that heat up a little bit more. So once we have our spinach that's working on wilting down so that I'll reduce down into lower volume, I'm going to make some of my cheese filling. So I've got a bowl here. Got 2 whole eggs, yolk and white, the whole 9 yards. Add to this a little bit of pepper. I'm going to add a little tiny bit of salt. I'm not trying to make this salty, but a little tiny bit of salt makes it a little bit easier to whisk the eggs so that they're really, really smooth. It helps break down some of the proteins in there. Helps quite a lot. Over here I've got mozzarella cheese and ricotta cheese. Now if you like, you can also add cottage cheese to this, which gives a different texture. Some people really like it, some people, it's not their favorite thing, but yeah, you guys do you. You decide what's going to be best on that. All right, I'm going to give this spin another 30 seconds. While I'm waiting for that, I'm going to whisk together my eggs. Just got them mixed up and incorporated. We'll mix these up with all the cheese in just a minute here. Okay, now in addition to that, we'll go for ricotta. This is probably about a cup of ricotta right there. I'm making a couple of lasagnas today, so I'm actually going to go all the way for about 2.5 cups. Let's see where that takes me. The thing is, ricotta cheese is not very expensive. This is, maybe $6.50 worth of ricotta. Really does go quite a long way. So don't be shy with the ricotta. It's delicious, pretty affordable. All right, I'm gonna go in next with some mozzarella. That's not nearly enough, so I'm gonna go for some more. It's probably a cup and a half maybe of mozzarella cheese. Got that in there. Alright, let's take a look at our spinach. That's wilting down a little bit more. See how that's already reduced by half? If I let this steam, it'll reduce even further. That'll be perfect. Okay, so now I've got eggs and I've got pepper in there. A little bit of salt, but there's one more really important thing, which is we need this. I need nutmeg. Nutmeg is this really kind of subtle flavor that is just perfect for Italian things like this. You can get pre-ground nutmeg and that works perfectly fine. So this is a whole nutmeg. Now I'm just going to grab a grater and carefully, once again without grating my fingertip off, I'm going to grate a little bit of this over here. I'm going to go for like maybe a third of this nutmeg. Now, this is something you find a lot in like Italian 3-cheese pastas, like filled pastas that have ricotta, mozzarella, and Parmesan. It's a pretty common thing. There's got about a quarter of that off. You can smell it. It already smells like eggnog. This is a really common eggnog spice. You look, it's just this light brown dusting in there. There we go. Now we're talking. All right, there's one more kind of cheese we need. So I'm going to go to my fridge. I'm going to get out my big giant block of Romano. You could use Parmesan, or I'm using Pecorino Romano. But pretty much any kind of hard Italian cheese will work. Tends to be, this stuff is usually a little bit salty. So if you use a lot of it, you might want to compensate and not use too much salt. Grating a bunch of this on there. There we go. That's it. So this is our cheese filling. I'm gonna mix all of this up into a big, giant, goopy mess. You really want to push through all the ricotta to make sure it gets fully incorporated. I mean, if you don't, it's no big deal. You just get a little pocket of ricotta, which is kind of delicious and fun. But if you get it really uniform, it'll help glue your lasagna together and it'll really stick together nicely. There we go. Now, I don't necessarily recommend just tasting that as it is, because remember, it's got a bunch of raw egg in it. So that might not be your favorite thing in the world to munch down on, you know, health and safety reasons. Okay, so now we have spinach, we have meat ragu, we have ricotta, and then there's one more element that I like to top. This is a trick I got from my mom. I like to top lasagna with bechamel in addition to the cheese layer, and it just makes it really like smooth. Again, makes everything hold together. So this is just a basic bechamel with a little bit of cracked pepper in there. And if you want to see how to make this, check out our last video on mac and cheese. That'll show you how to make bechamel as part of that. It's the same exact process. Milk, flour, butter. That's it. It's real easy. Okay, with that, I think we're just about ready to layer up. Now today I'm using these guys. These are oven-ready lasagna noodles. What that means is I don't have to boil them first. And this makes life really easy. If you got some of these, oh man, assembling this is going to be just a snap. It'll come together really quickly. I've made lasagna before using scratch-made noodles, and it's awesome and it's wonderful. But for today, since I can make like 2 or 3 of these, I'm just going to use these to speed the process up. So here we go, oven-ready lasagna noodles. All right, now we're going to start assembling here. So part 1 is our meat ragu. I'm going to get a little ladle because I think it makes life a little easier. So with this ladle, I'm just going to start with a little, very thin layer of sauce. A little bit of meat sauce, but I want to get a little liquid on the bottom of the pan. In addition to the meat sauce, a little bit of the liquid will help keep the lasagna from sticking to the bottom of the pan. I'm going to try and go in all the corners a little bit. Again, I don't want a thick layer yet. Just something like that is great. Start with that. Get it so it's about even. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm trying to get it so you don't have any fully like bald patches in there. Alright, there we go. Now we take our oven-ready lasagna noodles. You can see this one's just a little bit too big. So I'm just going to go here and I'm just going to snap a little bit off. Perfect. Just like that. Do the same thing right here. Snap. And if they break, yeah, just sort of assemble them like little pasta Legos or whatever. That's fine. And save up your little bits and pieces because you'll use those later on. Let's turn this one around this way. Like so. Perfect. So about 3 of those with a little bit snapped off the end will sort of cover that. So then we're good to go. All right. Next up, I'm going to go with my first layer of ricotta. Bring this over here. I don't want this so thick that it just becomes a gloopy, soupy mess, but we want a little bit that can kind of loosely cover most of it. Get some into the edges. Again, thin layers better than thick layers, at least in my opinion. You might disagree, and hey, you know, again, you do you. If you make a lasagna that has 2 layers and each layer is 1.5 inches thick, then hey, I bet it'll be a delicious hot mess. Keep in mind, it doesn't have to be perfect filling everything because it's going to spread itself out a whole lot when we bake this anyways. Boom, so there's a ricotta layer. Now, our spinach is starting to wilt up real nice. Go in here. I'm going to drain some of the water off. I don't want this to make our lasagna soggy. So you can use just like a metal colander if you want. Any device you want to drain it. This thing won't stick on there, so we're going to use a metal colander. What do you know? Second, drain that through. See, the volume of our spinach has just dramatically reduced down so that it's going to be smaller. Now, one trick when you're grabbing spinach is if you use tongs, you kind of squeeze a little bit of water out of spinach as you pick some of it up. So lift it up, give it a little squeeze, give it a little squeeze. Perfect. Put this up here. Okay, so next our lasagna is going to want a little bit of spinach, and again, thin layer. So I sort of grab some, dot it around, spread it out a little bit. Just like so. And don't worry if it's not perfect. Even everything gets smooshed around a little bit with this kind of recipe. Cool. So now I'm just going to repeat my layering process, and I'm probably going to do one more set of meat, pasta, ricotta, maybe spinach, maybe not, and then another layer of pasta on top, and we'll finish that with some of our bechamel and some mozzarella and parmesan. All right, so we've layered up our lasagna with another set of layers, and on the top now I've got this oven-ready lasagna noodle here. So now we're gonna add some bechamel drizzle over the top and try and make a smooth layer. Then we're gonna top it up with mozzarella cheese and a little bit more grated Parmesan. And then it's ready to bake. Take our bechamel, layer some on here. See what we do. And we just smooth it over. We got a nice, even, thin layer of bechamel. Again, construction of these things is so forgiving. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to get a lot of layers of delicious stuff. And it'll all hang together. All right, we've got bechamel. I'm gonna add some mozzarella. This you want to try and make sure you get in all the corners. Because some people really like the crispy edges around the corners. That's where the mozzarella will really cook itself against the metal pan. Become this amazing crispy cheese masterpiece. One last piece of cheese detail. There's a little bit more grated hard Italian cheese. So again, this is Pecorino Romano. And you don't need a ton of this because this will really flavor things up. And that's it. Simple as that. So all you have to do now is cover this with tin foil, but then you want to bake this for maybe a good 45 minutes, possibly even an hour, at about 350, maybe 375 degrees. And then when it feels like it's going to be done all the way through, you'll see bubbling sauce all around the edges. The cheese should be melted and almost crispy around the edges there. And sort of peek under the foil, check it out. When all that is done, then remove the foil. Bake it for another 10-15 minutes and really keep your eye on it. You're trying to get the cheese lightly brown and bubbling on top. And when it's there, when you got that brown and bubbly on top and then sauce coming out the edges, it's done. Take it out and rest it for 15 minutes at least. You might want 20 minutes, but make sure you rest it because otherwise when you spoon into it and try and dig a piece out, it's just going to turn into a sloppy hot mess. So instead, rest it for a few minutes and the layers will settle and bind into each other. And then you can slice it up and serve it, and it's amazing. It's great if you make one of these, you can put it in the freezer, you can pull it out from the freezer, just add like half an hour of cook time. So maybe hour and 15 to an hour and a half cook time at about 350, and it works just the same. So I try and have one of these in my freezer most of the time because they're amazing and delicious. All right, guys, it's out of the oven. It is going to cool down for about 10-12 minutes. For a bigger lasagna, it might need to cool it down for more like 15 or even 20 minutes. But once it's cool, I'm going to slice into it, scoop it out with a spatula, and serve it up. It's going to be delicious. Check it out. All right, hope you guys have great adventures while cooking, and I will see you guys back in the rehearsal room.